On this episode of the podcast, we take a look at the movie The Old Man and the Gun. Written and directed by David Lowery, starring Robert Redford, Casey Affleck, Sissy Spacek, Danny Glover, and Tom Waits. Welcome to He Said, She Said Movie Reviews. This is the podcast where a happily married couple with similar but different movie tastes take a quick look at the movies, helping you make the right decision before your next movie. I'm your host, Tim.
And I'm April. The Old Man and the Gun. Is it a good farewell movie for the amazing Robert Redford? We'll tell you about it right after the trailers.
So the first trailer we saw is for a movie called Ben is Back. This follows the charming yet troubled Ben Burns, who returns home to his unsuspecting family one fateful Christmas Eve. Ben's wary mother, Holly Burns, welcomes her beloved son's return, but soon learns he is still very much in harm's way. During the 24 hours that may change their lives forever, Holly must do everything in her power to avoid her family's downfall. This stars Julia Roberts and Lucas Hedges.
It looks fantastic.
Yeah, it does.
Second trailer was On the Basis of Sex, the movie that my nieces cannot wait to see. It's the story of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, her struggles for equal rights, and what she had to overcome in order to become a U.S. Supreme Court justice. It's with Felicity Jones and Justin Theroux, and I cannot wait to see this movie.
Yeah, it looks from the trailers, it looks like it's going to be a really good movie. So the movie we're reviewing this week on the podcast is The Old Man and the Gun. This is directed by David Lowery, who brought us Pete's Dragon, A Ghost Story, and a bunch of short movies. And it was also written by David Lowery, and it was adapted from the New Yorker article by David Grann.
And it was a very interesting cast as well. Robert Redford was Forrest Tucker, and Sissy Spacek was Jewel. She was utterly amazing, as she always is. Casey Affleck, Danny Glover, and Tom Waits.
Yep, that pretty much rounds out the cast. This was another one April loved because it had a running time of 93 minutes.
It was perfect. All right. You want to talk about the plot?
Yeah, no, the plot, this plot was based off of a true story. It takes place, the true story of Forrest Tucker, who was apparently this all took place in the 1981, and it's all about an old guy who was a bank robber, robbed a lot of banks, and escaped from a lot of different prisons. So, and this movie starts off at the very end of his career, apparently just after he had escaped from San Quentin prison, which is a prison I was very familiar with growing up because I grew up about 50 miles away from there. It's based at the end of the San Rafael Bridge in the Bay Area.
Yep. And the whole kind of theme of the movie, I believe, is you're never too old. He just continued to do what he loved. The movie, I have to say, obviously I'm a huge Robert Redford fan, but he and Sissy Spacek, I loved the chemistry. It was not one moment forced. I loved it. It was so good to see both of them again. It was like, for me, putting on an old shoe, if you will, that's comfortable. I mean it. I mean, I felt very at home. I thought they did a great job. This movie did not go deep. It stayed above the surface, and that's fine. Every movie doesn't have to be made that's super, super deep. The movie, he did a great job as well. I enjoyed the story. I laughed several times. It was fascinating, but it just never
took off.
No, it did. It was meant to not be a deep movie. Just for me, I would have been curious if they had gone a little deeper with the characters.
I'm going to get a lot of old jokes into this podcast because, just because of the theme of the movie for me. You know, we're talking about the pace. It started slow, it ended slow, and it went through the whole movie on a walker.
Oh my gosh. Did you just come up with that?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
and
this is what I live with, folks.
And I also say that they did check and make sure everybody coming into the theater had their AARP card on them. So,
oh, ha ha ha. It was a cute.
April, we were the youngest people in the audience.
Okay, we might have been. It was a cute movie. I talked about the chemistry. No, the rest of the cast, yeah, they did fine. I'm not going to go on and on about them. But
yeah, I will.
Okay.
A lot of people are in love with Casey Affleck. Of course, the Academy Award and all that other stuff. Manchester by the Sea. To me, I'm not a big Casey Affleck fan. I think Casey Affleck plays Casey Affleck in every movie. And it just so happens that Manchester by the Sea was written for somebody who was moody and broody and dark. So he was the perfect casting for that. This movie for me, I love Robert Redford and Sissy Spacek, and I agree with April. They had great chemistry, the scenes with them, but I don't think it was well directed. I don't think David Lowery did a good job. There were several times where there were scenes that were put into this movie that just didn't belong. As a writer, you don't put scenes that don't have an impact on the movie. There was a scene where Casey Affleck, the cop, is talking to a woman in San Francisco. The scene had no bearing on the movie. It didn't need to be in there. I agree with that.
Yeah.
And the whole time I was sitting, there was a couple things that really bothered me during this movie, and it took me a while to figure out. And this all, like I said at the beginning, this took place in 1981, and it was based on a true story of this over-the-hill gang in Forest Tucker. And I never heard about this during 81. But in
but defense, you were in Argentina.
In the defense in the movie, I was in Argentina the year, and the only thing I ever heard about it was the same year that Ronald Reagan was shot. So
okay, well, I lived in California, and I don't remember hearing about it.
But the thing that really bothered me the most about this movie, that took me a long time to figure out, it was a very dark, dirty movie. The cinematography made it look like the 80s were dirty and bland and depressing. Really? And I lived in the 80s. It was nothing like that. The 80s were the good times.
Okay. All right. Well, we disagree on this. All I noticed is the cars, and I noticed a couple of what women were wearing, and I noticed several of the scarves.
Yeah, so. April, you never dressed like that in the 80s. And my hair never looked like that either. So
okay, all right. Well, so what do you think about this movie?
Okay. If you listen to our Halloween podcast about the movie Halloween with Jamie Lee Curtis, you know that April and I were split on it. And I have a feeling we're going to be split on it again. For me, this movie was a 2, not even a 2.5. I was bored out of my mind.
Okay, well, I'm going to give it a 3 just because I thought a lot of the scenes were actually beautiful. Out in the country, the horses, I don't know. And I also really did enjoy the humor between him and the characters in the bank. So I'm gonna, just because it was unique. It was a unique script. It was a unique story. I gave it a 3, and I have to say, Robert and Sissy, I love you, and we're gonna miss you, Robert Redford.
Yes, we are. I wish you would have gone out with a better movie.
Well, I'm glad that we went, and Tim and I will look forward to seeing y'all at the movies.
Hey, and if you're in Atlanta and you got a chance to go see a movie, please go to the Springs Cinema and Tap House, our home theater. We really appreciate it. And if you get a chance, please go out to hesaidshesaidmovies.com/subscribe and subscribe to the podcast. It's completely free. We thank you a lot, and we'll see you at the movies.
See you at the movies.